A declaration of war. That is how Mahmoud Abbas' spokesman reacted to Israel's closure of the al-Aqsa Mosque to worshippers in reaction to the shooting of an Israeli rabbi. Now, while the UN Security Council proves its inability to hold Israel accountable for illegal settlement building, increasing anger in the capitals of Israeli allies about its actions, and more pressure on Palestinian officials to finally show some backbone, in this edition of the debate we'll ask, has the world reached a crossroads in how it deals with Israel, and which way will it go? Let's now introduce our guests for this edition of the debate. We're joined by writer and political commentator Mr. Gilad Atzmon, who is joining us live from London. And we're also joined by investigative journalist Mr. Lee Kaplan, who is joining us live from San Francisco. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us here on this edition of the debate. Mr. Atzmon, if I may, I'd like to start with you. Now, Israel has been accused of the Judaization of Jerusalem al-Quds. How credible do you believe that accusation is?
We have to understand that Israel defines itself as the Jewish state. This is not new. This is the old idea that drove Zionism in the early days, and this is exactly the philosophy that drives current Israeli politics, and especially the current government. Israel definitely don't want to move towards any possible solution. You know, quite more than a few cabinet members believe in expulsion of the Palestinians. I think that this statement is more than valid, and it describes very well what we see on the ground. Interestingly enough, following the recent defeat, military defeat of the Israeli army, and the clashes that we see in Jerusalem in the last few weeks, I think that time is ripe for the Israelis to admit that the military doesn't provide the solution, and they may manage to win some different battles on political ground and so on and so on. As we know, most Western governments are dominated by Jewish lobbies. They win battles here and there, but they are losing the war, and they are about to lose their capital. The Jewish state is facing its very last days.
Mr. Kaplan, I wanted to bring you in here. I just wanted to add this. I'm sure you disagree with Mr. Atzmon, so I would like to get your response to that. Secondly, I just wanted to add on, certainly, though, with the al-Aqsa Mosque and how Israel has acted towards it. You can understand, I would imagine, the nervousness of at least Muslims worldwide about how Israel has acted towards that, and then this, of course, accusation of the Judaization of Jerusalem al-Quds, therefore.
Well, first of all, putting aside the fact that Mr. Atzmon is a propagandist for the Palestinians, let's understand something here. In 1967, when Israel took the west part of Jerusalem, they could have taken over the Temple Mount, which was the Jews' most holy shrine, and they could have made it exclusively for Jews. They didn't do that. What they did was they turned over the administrative control of the Temple Mount to the Waqf, which was the Islamic control. Now, what's happened since then is the Waqf has forbidden Jews to pray on their most holy shrine that they themselves liberated in 1967. Jews aren't even allowed to move their lips on the Temple Mount for fear that they might be praying, and they have been accosted and physically harmed. Moshe Feiglin, who was part of the nationalist camp who wanted to change that on the Temple Mount and give Jews more privilege to play, was just shot by a Palestinian in an attempted assassination in the last day. So, this is propaganda and nonsense. They talk about Judaizing Jerusalem. Jerusalem has always been a Jewish city. And you use words in your press TV broadcasts like illegal settlements, another 1,000 illegal apartments for the Jews. They're not illegal, okay? They are in dispute. When you use charged rhetoric, you confuse people, and that's what the intent is. But they're not illegal. They're part of Jerusalem. They're part of Israel, and they belong to the Jewish people. Now, as for the al-Aqsa
Mr. Kaplan,
Mosque
if I may come in here, I don't want to interrupt you and your thought pattern, but I just wanted to clarify. Even the United States says that the settlement building is illegal.
The United States The United States can say whatever the United States wants to say. It doesn't make it true. By international law, Resolution 242 that you mentioned before was put together by Eugene Rostow for the UN, and he specified that the settlements are not illegal. Now, you keep saying they're illegal, so when people who don't know the truth listen to it, they fall for it. And whatever vested interests the State Department in the United States may have in order to support the Palestinians in their illegal activities and goals doesn't make it right. Now,
okay, Mr. Kaplan, hold on to your thoughts. I just want to keep the conversation flowing. I do apologize for interrupting. Mr. Atzmon, I'd like your response to what Mr. Kaplan there said. You were laughing a while back, so just go ahead with your response then.
No, I was laughing when he argued that the Jews have some rights because they liberated the Temple Mount. This is not liberation. This is an occupation. And the reason that the international community see the settlement as illegal is due to the fact that we are dealing with occupied territory. It's occupied territory, and Israel is supposed to protect, according to the Geneva Convention, to protect the Palestinian civilian population, and instead of doing it, it actually expels them, harass them, and put endless measures that makes their life unbearable. This is why the occupation is illegal, and this is why Israel is facing an international crisis at the moment.
Go ahead, Mr. Kaplan.
Let me respond. All right, first of all, the Temple Mount, prior to 1967, when it was under the control of Jordan, did not allow Jews to even go up on the Temple Mount. They discriminated against Jewish prayer there. When Israel retook the Temple Mount back in 1967, they opened it up to all three major religions, and they gave the Waqaf, the Islamic Waqaf administration, they gave them the administrative control over the Temple Mount. And what they have done since then is they have made it illegal for Christians and Jews to go up there and pray. They can't even move their lips on the Temple Mount. And an example of what they're encouraging there is the fact that Moshe... well, maybe they can't make it illegal, but what they're doing is they're enforcing their own rules, which says that Jews can't pray on the Temple Mount. Now, getting back to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, let's talk about that.
It's an Islamic sacred place.
Well, everything is an Islamic sacred place if it belongs to another religion.
No, not everything.
Okay,
not everything.
Gilad,
you know, the capital is not.
Gilad, I know your tactic is to lie by omission and to keep talking when I try to say something. But how about shutting up and let's get the truth out here? Now, when we talk about the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the fact is it is 3% of the entire Temple Mount. That's number one. Number two, there have been riots emanating from the mosque. They have even stored weapons in there. They have arranged attacks with rocks and Molotov cocktails, attacks on Israeli police and civilians and on Jews that are on the Temple Mount. This is what's been going on inside the mosque with the blessing of the Waqaf. Now, you can act all innocent and try to say, oh, my goodness, it's an Islamic holy place. It's a holy place that contains weapons. It's a holy place that declares war on the Jews. It's a holy place that throws Molotov cocktails and rocks at the Jews. And it's not such a holy place. Now, this business about trying to Judaize Jerusalem has been a Jewish city for 5,000 years. And the fact of the matter is, the attempts by Muslims to try and claim, oh, it's a Muslim holy place and the Jews stole it, is pure propaganda. The fact is, the Quran.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there on that thought, Mr. Kaplan, because I want to add another voice to this conversation. Now, we will get back to you. But I just want to go to our viewers now who have been taking part in this conversation as well through our various social media platforms. Let's now listen to some of those comments, and we'll get right back to our guests.
The whole situation sucks. A true sensible human being will never recognize Israel and their arrogant regime. They will be the losers in the end. There must be a third intifada. There is too much, and proudly I will participate in the intifada, fighting for my land. Palestine is an imaginary state. Israel is the recognized state with a defined boundary. East Jerusalem belongs to Jews and Israel. Israel is a rogue and a failed state. Israel has committed genocide, massacre of innocent people, and had bombed civilized UN member states with impunity. This pervert, racist, Zionist, and terrorist state of Israel must be tried in International Court of Justice for crimes against humanity. Israel has been magnanimous to the extent of allowing the non-Jerusalemites worship at the Mount. Let the Palestinians relocate to Iran to put this matter to an end. Any more aggression against Israel may most likely force them nuke the intruders. Israel has done too much for their neighbors. Iran has expanse of land to accommodate Palestinians. Israel is a dominant occupier, and sure, they want a piece of this and a piece of that till they have stolen it. All, no justice, no peace. Never forget, never forgive. Palestine will be free. The world should cut off all association with terrorist Israel.
Okay, let me put one of those comments to Mr. Atzmon, our guest who's joining us live from London. Mr. Atzmon, the comment that Mr. Kaplan there made before we went to the social media comments about Jerusalem belonging to the Jews in Israel is something that one of our viewers also said. I wanted to get your response to that.
Yeah, to start with, it is not down to Mr. Kaplan or any other Jew on this planet to decide what should be considered as a Muslim holy place. Now, the fact that some Jews believe that Israel is their property is basically an incarnation of the most ugly face of Jewish expansionist tribalism that is always celebrating on the expense of other people. And I want to be very clear about it. Jews came to Palestine under this Zionist flag with a promise to change their way and to become wonderful, civilized people. Here we are, looking at Israel, 115 years of Zionism, and we see the most horrid manifestation of Jewish tribalism, Jewish expansionism, Jewish aggression, and the most devastating thing for me here, as an ex-Jew actually, is to see how the Jews once again bring a disaster on themselves, and they're really working 24/7, bringing this disaster on themselves. And a person like Lee Kaplan is is a prominent embodiment of this tendency.
Mr. Kaplan, I want to get your response, but just before I wanted to clarify that, Mr. Atzmon there is speaking about the Zionism specifically. We're not speaking about all Jews here, but I certainly wanted to find out then, as Mr. Atzmon there said, how has the Zionist project gone wrong?
All right, listen, Gilad, all right, you're going to let me talk now, Gilad.
I just want to clarify.
Let's
so you can
understand
answer.
something here.
No.
All right, stop talking.
I didn't say Zionism.
Gilad, shut up, will you? Gilad, the fact of the matter is, you're a Tokyo Rose for the Arabs. Okay, you're the Jew who gave up Judaism and now is a mouthpiece for the Arabs, and will gladly lie for them. The fact of the matter is, Israel is not. You don't have tiny Israel with about 7 million Jews seeking to conquer 22 Arab nations in the Ummah. The fact of the matter is, if anybody looks at a map, they can see Israel is grossly outnumbered by belligerent states which call for its destruction and the killing of the Jews. The Hamas Charter calls for wiping out all the Jews in the world, an organization which, Gilad, you've supported in the past. The fact of the matter is, the truth is that Israel has bent over backwards to try and accommodate the Arab population. 20% of Israel's population are Arab Israelis. They have the same rights by law as the Jews. The Palestinians and the Palestinian Authority are not Israeli citizens. The idea, Israel was helping them to set up a country. Israel was handling 70% of their budget to help them to do this. Israel still gives them food, supplies, electricity, everything else. And all they do is threaten war and to kill. Now, they just killed a 3-month-old baby in Jerusalem. They didn't kill a 3-month-old baby in the light rail train? You're lying right now on international television, Gilad.
2,000 Palestinians were murdered just a few weeks ago in Gaza. So stop this crap, please.
2,000 Palestinians were murdered in Gaza. That's not true. But I can tell you that a 3-month-old baby was killed at the light rail station in Jerusalem, was run over by a car. Another 5-year-old child just died the other day. And the Palestinian Authority has called the killer a martyr. And they've even held a parade for him and celebrated him as a martyr with 1,000 participants chanting for Hamas. Gilad, you're a Tokyo Rose for the Arabs. You know, it's true. You're not a Jew anymore. You're a coward and a self-serving individual.
I can take it.
Go ahead, Mr. Atzmon.
Sure you can take it.
I want to give you a chance to clarify your comments.
The fact of the matter is,
Gilad,
you are not a truthful man. You don't tell the truth about the situation there.
Go ahead, Mr. Atzmon. Go ahead, Mr. Atzmon.
I think that I'm sorry, you didn't tell the truth. Okay, the situation is that you are comparing here actions that were committed by a sovereign state, i.e. the Jewish state, Israel, with an act that was taken by individual. Is this the comparison? And you talk about, you blame the Palestinians for an act that was taken by individual, and even the act yesterday was taken by individual. Whether we support him or not, this is another question. You know? Now, I don't want, when I talk about Jewish culture, and this is to Press TV actually, when I talk about Jewish culture and Jewish tribal culture, I'm clever enough to decide where to use the word Zionism or Jewish culture. I don't talk about Jews, but I talk about Jewish culture. Israel is the Jewish state, and it brings to light the ugliest symptoms of Jewish culture. I don't talk about the Jews. Jews can be great people, but once Jews follow their culture, we have a serious problem, and this is exactly what we see in Israel, and this is exactly what we see in America. In America, where AIPAC is dominating American policy, and we saw today on my way here, I saw American White House kind of regretting a truthful statement that was made in the White House, and it exactly. I'm not attacking the Jewish people. The problem with you, Mr. Kaplan, is not that you are a Jew, is that you are behaving Jewishly.
You say that
but this is,
now I'm behaving Jewishly. So you're not being prejudiced here.
Go ahead, Mr. Kaplan.
This is your interpretation.
The fact of the matter, and I'd like not to be interrupted. Number one, he tries to say that the killing of the 3-month-old baby and the other little child in the train station in Jerusalem was an act of an individual and not of the state. Well, the Palestinian Authority and Hamas and all of the Palestinian states have endorsed it. They lauded it. They held a funeral. They cheered on the killer and said that he was a martyr. He made a lie a moment ago,
it was
as the propagandists will do, and he said that let me finish. Let me finish.
All right.
You step on my words
so
because
don't lie.
you don't
Try
want me to get the truth out. The fact
I know that telling the truth is not.
I'm not lying, Gilad.
You are lying.
Gilad, I'm not a Tokyo Rose. I'm not the Tokyo Rose that you are. Now let's face something.
No,
you said
you're a Zionist Jew.
Palestinians.
You're a Zionist Jew, which is far worse than that.
And I'm proud of it. And all Jews who are real Jews are Zionists. Okay? It's a euphemism.
Fine.
It's a euphemism for somebody like you to try and get away.
I agree. This was the first
the moment after you say that, you say I'm acting Jewishly. Well, then I guess you do have a thing against Jews. There is you say that somebody's acting Jewishly.
I have a problem.
You just said it.
You just admitted that every good Jew is a Zionist, and you behave Jewishly. That's all. That's all.
You said 2,000 Palestinians were killed by the IDF. What you were referring to was supposedly the alleged casualties in the last war in Operation Defensive Edge in Gaza. Well, the fact is, out of that 2,000, at least half were armed terrorists. So don't try and lie again by omitting facts, which is what you do. You were at Tokyo Rose. You're a Lord Haw.
This is your statistics.
Okay, gentlemen, I do sincerely apologize. I would have loved to continue this conversation, but unfortunately we will have to leave it there for now, and we will have to, of course, continue this conversation at a later date. But we do appreciate both of you joining us for this edition of the debate. We were joined by Mr. Gilad Atzmon, who is joining us live from London. He's a writer and political commentator. And we were also joined live from San Francisco by Mr. Lee Kaplan, who is an investigative journalist. And, of course, viewers, we do appreciate you joining us as well for this edition of the debate, and, of course, your input through our social media outlets as well. Thanks for watching.